How was Mars?
Mars was all right. It's pretty good. I found a fan creation of Sonic Mars. Looks like it's playable. I bring forth to you this version that we can play together.
Beautiful.
This is my offering. Well, what do you have to offer?
Well, I have to offer an exchange. We're getting extreme, baby. Yeah. We're getting so extreme because now that we've given the prelude, we are going to talk about Sonic X-treme for the most extreme experience ever.
So far, the thing that seems extreme about Sonic X-treme is the extreme hassle of bringing it to market, the extreme vertigo one might undergo when playing the game, and then just the extreme amount of details that's actually out about a game that never was released.
What about the extremely epic plots? Yes, plots plural.
Is that where we're starting things?
Let's kick it up. Because what was this game going to be about? So obviously, because this game was never finished, each plot, like they have like their own title. This is kind of confusing because like one is called the Sonic Twist and one's that Sonic Boom that you mentioned in a previous episode. Then we have Sonic Space Doom, which that one's interesting and I want to get into that.
Wait, Doom in space?
Yes. There's Sonic Space Doom instead of like Sonic No Space Boom. Then there's Sonic PC, and then Sonic X-treme, and then the Red Shoes Chronicles.
Something about the way that these are named so far. Sonic No Space Boom, Sonic's Yes Space Doom, Sonic PC, Sonic X-treme really reminds me of my own naming schemes, where I'll be like, this is like CJ1 and CJ2. This is CJ Maximum. This is CJ Uber Maximum. This is CJ Redux. This is CJ Ultimus. And I'll just keep going up from there. There's no particular order.
Sonic Twist actually does include that character we also talked about previously, Princess Tiara. So essentially the plot here is Sonic has a date with Princess Tiara. She's like 1,000 miles away and he has to run and get to their date spot. And basically the longer he takes, the more upset she becomes. To make up for him being late, he wants to give her a present. And his plan is to make a necklace out of the 7 Chaos Emeralds and give that to her. Eggman finds out about this and basically wants to stop Sonic from A, collecting the Chaos Emeralds, and B, from foiling his plans / getting to his date spot. And this description here on the wiki has very odd phrasing that gives me a little bit of ick.
I don't know if I'm looking at the same thing you are, but does it involve the term minx-baby?
Yep, there it is. I hate it.
I found the exact sentence you're referring to. Quote, Sonic hangs in his not-whole crib while minx-baby chills in her pop's kingdom 1,000 miles away. Not miles, by the way. Males, as in male versus female? As in there are 1,000 men in between Sonic and Princess Tiara?
Well,
that's gotta be a typo.
Yeah, that has to be a typo, but oh man, I love that actually. 1,000 males away. Like, how tall is each male? No idea. Also, are we measuring them like width? Are we measuring them like vertically and then laying them down?
It's like, you know, the car shows where like a monster truck like goes over a bunch of buses.
Yeah.
But it's Sonic just like spin dashing and it goes pew, and it's just trying to go up over 1,000 men, and they're all looking up and they're just like, look in the sky. Is it a bird? No. Is it a plane? No. Is Sonic wearing pants? No! Because he's also extremely underdressed.
For Eggman to try and stop Sonic, he has this new weapon that he fires and it kind of like transforms Mobius. Like things start like floating and like getting ripped out of the ground. Whole houses, cars, chunks of wood.
Quote, all ripped up, floating angelically. Another quote straight from the website.
And now this landscape is warped and twisted. That's why it's called Sonic Twist.
I figured that the twist had to do something with the fact that, oh yeah, it's not like Sonic trying to save the world. It's Sonic trying to win the love of
Princess
yet another
Tiara.
New character. Guess so. What is up with Sonic and princesses?
I don't know. Oh, actually, you're right. That is a lot because, okay, yeah, we have the chick from the OVA. We have Sally. We have Tiara. We have
Elise, I guess.
Yes, Elise. Thank you. I was blanking on her name.
And Blaze is also a princess, but I guess they're not really involved.
It depends on who you're asking. because, you know, shippers. And there's a lot of princesses in this world. And
Where do
either they
princes at?
have things for Sonic or the internet does it for them.
Yikes. Okay, what's the next plot?
So the next one is Sonic No Space Boom. This one's Robotnik is messing around with a virus and gets himself infected. So
That sounds familiar.
he infects Sonic with the said virus. So Sonic goes to now Professor Bubowski instead of King Cyberbowski. Sonic has to run around collecting the materials for Professor Bubowski, and then at the last minute, before he gets the last one, Eggman kidnaps Professor Bubowski, basically trying to trick Sonic into making the cure so he can cure himself.
So what about this is very no space included boom?
Yeah, I don't understand the boom here.
Where's the boom? Where's the earth-shattering kaboom?
What was it? Robotnik kidnapping Professor Bubowski? Is the boom the fact that Bubowski is no longer royalty? For plots, this is where, if they do include the Bubowskis are no longer royalty.
They've been demoted.
Yeah, they were demoted. There is no longer a kingdom.
Maybe that's the boom. My main question with that is, why boom when the virus is called Doom?
I don't know.
Also, just like, I guess not even a throwback because this happened way before, but like maybe precursor to the metal virus? I don't know.
Yeah, the next plot is Sonic Doom. For thousands of years, the Chaos Doom, or Elemental Legion, lay trapped, suspended in a state of lonely silence within the Master Chaos Emerald, watching seasons in the outside worlds come and go, generations birth and die. Dr. Iva Robotnik, convinced there is some ultimate power within, succeeded in breaking the Emerald, providing a long-awaited exit for the Chaos Doom. No longer trapped, they waste no time in spreading their evil throughout Mobius and the surrounding dimensions. And Chaos Doom has this Doom virus that if it comes in contact with non-living creatures, it can gain control of them and force them to do its bidding. It sees Sonic as a threat because for it to fully mature, it needs time. And obviously Sonic likes to go fast, so Chaos Doom is trying to do what it can to slow down Sonic so it can fully develop.
I am trying my best not to picture the love child of Chaos and Black Doom that somehow has Zeddy powers.
Yeah, honestly, like the reason this one caught my attention is I feel like this was essentially the precursor to Chaos.
Yeah, being trapped in the Master Emerald.
Yeah, like it would have been
Wacky.
interesting if when Chaos was released, like he also released some chaotic energy that like corrupted or transformed either like creatures, animals, the land itself. I think that would have been a really cool idea. It's still cool that this seems to be like a precursor to Chaos. I like that.
And I guess with a grain of salt there too, that these are concepts for a game that I'm supposing were probably internal. And another thing to think of too is I think X-treme was being developed by an American-based Sega team versus Sonic Adventure was being developed by I think the Japanese team.
Yeah, I think you're right
Primarily,
about
I think.
that.
So I wonder if there was even crosstalk in regards to these plots for one to inspire the other. But you're right. Oddly enough, if Chaos from the Master Emerald was being thought of as a potential plot point now during Sonic X-treme's development, Sonic Adventure came out shortly thereafter.
I wonder if there actually was any crosstalk like that between Sega of Japan and Sega of America, only because like at the time they weren't exactly on the same side, again because of all the political nonsense going on. And also comparing Chaos Doom to like Chaos and Black Doom, it actually also has kind of aspects of what would be used for Black Doom, because one of its other effects of its Doom virus is it poisons the atmosphere to the point where the only thing that's suitable for is Chaos Doom itself. I want to say that was part of one of the things he was trying to do in Shadow the Hedgehog. The final ending was basically when like he straps the asteroid, comet, whatever onto the Earth and starts spreading out something in the air that paralyzes everything that's not Dark Arms, because that's part of why Shadow wasn't affected by that, because he's part Dark Arms, Black Arms, sorry. The next plot is Sonic PC. So this basically takes place like after Sonic has defeated Robotnik. I think he sent him to another world?
Yeah, what? Long ago,
my
there
God,
was an
yeah,
evil man
wait.
named Ivor Robotnik. Wait, he's gone. What?
Wait, here. With the help from the creatures of the world, Sonic jettisoned Robotnik to a galaxy far, far away, hoping the rotund recluse would start his life anew.
Listen, the last time Eggman found himself in space, he captured a primordial time being and ripped space-time to shreds.
Well, you say last time, but technically that didn't happen yet.
Time's not linear in this case, Lycos. But please, go on.
Basically, Eggman built himself a new death egg in this galaxy and is sending these space balloons to Sonic's planet to kidnap animals and bring them to the death egg. Sonic gets
Space
captured, he gets out, and it's sent hurtling to the jungle planet, Jade Gully. Throughout all of the plots, Jade Gully was going to be the name of the first zone. So that is a constant. Our next plot is the actual Sonic X-treme. So this takes place after Robotnik's defeat at the floating island. Robotnik not only rebuilds the death egg, but he builds this thing so big that it's bigger than Sonic's planet. First off, how did he build something like this? To the point where its gravitational pull is pulling in a bunch of other planets. Sonic wants to go take him down. Tails is like, okay, we kind of have to go quickly, so I can't contact Knuckles. I'm just gonna beam you up, Scotty, to the planet, and you can go take out Eggman. As he teleports Sonic, Sonic is intercepted and lands on one of the planets orbiting the death egg. Robotnik, Eggman, I'm gonna interchange, saw this coming, and he's like, lol, Psych Hedgehog, land on this planet, not my death egg. Sonic kind of has to save the local inhabitants, which are the MIPS that we talked about in the previous episode, and go from like planet to get to the death egg to have that confrontation with Robotnik.
So instead of Sonic making his way to the death egg, he finds himself at this odd planet that seems to exist somewhere in between Earth and I guess its atmosphere that has, I guess, interesting gravity mechanics and other weird floating structures.
Yeah, like not exactly correct, but for the most part, yeah, I can see what you're saying. Where
Doesn't
are you going?
that give you Sonic Lost World vibes?
Yeah, that is really funny because Chris Sen worked on Sonic Lost World. I believe.
Coincidence?
I think not.
I don't think so.
Because I want to say it was actually a trivia thing that some of like the gameplay stuff they were planning on doing in Sonic X-treme was actually incorporated into Sonic Lost World.
Another thing that I just thought of is Sonic Boom. Is there another connection to be made there too? Not like Sonic No Space Boom, but with Sonic Boom, like, you know, with Lyric and the other characters.
Oh, Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric. Yes, actually, because Chris Sen worked on that one as well.
But he had nothing to do with Black Doom, Chaos.
No, I don't.
Doing their thing together.
No, I don't believe he worked on Adventure or Shadow. Our last
What about the
plot.
shoes?
Yeah, the Red Shoe Chronicles. Hey, Cameron, do you remember when we talked about the Rings of Order and when we first brought up Gazebo and Tiara?
Yeah.
What if I told you that was all made up? That was not real.
What do you mean it's not real?
So that storyline was published for Electronic Gaming Monthly. Chris Sen confirmed that storyline of Tiara and Gazebo protecting the Rings of Order and Eggman wanting to steal them, that was completely made up for the article.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
What? Okay, wait, hold up a second.
However,
I'm gonna go...
as confirmed by Chris Sen, this storyline was simply made up for the article while the real plot was still being developed.
Where is that piece of information? Is that on the X-treme webpage?
Yes, this is on the X-treme page.
That's so interesting because I remember when we brought that up during the Rings of Order episode, and I was referencing one of the wiki pages for the Rings of Order itself, and nowhere on that page does it say that they're made up. It actually says that the first appearance of the Rings of Order are in Sonic X-treme.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
No, yeah, because again, this plotline with these rings was never going to be a plotline. It was literally just made up.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And nowhere on this doesn't say that.
Please excuse me while I put on my editor's glasses, and I'm just gonna... Don't worry, Lycos. The Rings of Order page will be corrected.
Are you editing the Sonic wiki?
Yeah. It's a community-driven wiki, dude. It's the fandom for the fans and the dumb.
I am the dumb, so that tracks.
And the fan.
That is fair. I am also a fan.
Yeah, well, I'm doing my good service to society it being a member of the Sonic the Hedgehog fan community, now the Rings of Order page says that they were never canonically in the game, rather a concept. So now the next camera with an X who decides to do an episode on rings of all sorts won't be led so astray because one wiki page says something correct and the other one omits that information. But I appreciate the call out. I'm a man of my word and I try to be honest, and I like to know where my failures lie. Like Sonic X-treme.
How they wanted this game to play out. So obviously they were going to try and make a 3D game, even though none of the people working on it had ever made a 3D game because it wasn't really a thing yet. But one of the ideas going in, they were going to have 4 playable characters. It was going to be Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, and Tiara. And they wanted to do something a little wacky with it. So each character had something weird going on in terms of the camera's perspective. Sonic, you were basically going to be playing it through a like fisheye lens. There is footage of it online and you're gonna get a little barfy like after like a half hour.
It's a bit vertigo inducing. I can agree with that. Evidently, at least for the fisheye lens, like there's some quotes from Chris Sen saying that like maybe not necessarily something he worked on in particular, but the fisheye lens was a means for them to solve the issue of if Sonic is moving really, really fast in a 3D space, how do we give the player enough time to react to things that they were approaching? The solution there was this complicated algorithm to like render the game spherically, making it look like a fisheye lens so that the player could always see what's coming ahead of them in their periphery as they move through the stage with swapping gravity and stuff like that and bouncing around in different locations.
Yeah, and like climbing up walls and stuff, because I know that was something that they wanted to do, and that was some of the stuff that they added in Sonic Lost World.
And apparently a lot better, as good as Lost World was.
Yeah. Knuckles, they were planning on doing like a top-down kind of view, so it was going to be closer to like a 2D platformer. Tiara's was actually going to be like the most simplistic, because hers was going to be more like your standard like 2D platforming. The one that got me was Tails, because they were planning on doing first-person flying levels.
Oh my gosh, dude.
That sounds both fascinating and also a nightmare.
I'm like imagining very wacky angles, because if there's supposed to be like shifting gravity and stuff like that from a first person point of view is I've played games like that where like gravity shifts randomly from a first person point of view, and that's confusing to get used to.
Yeah.
Especially for graphics that were not up to the level that we're at right now.
Yeah. And like for me, I'm just thinking about like Tails, like if they are like you're just flying around in those levels. From things I've played personally in flight, third person is always kind of like easier on the eyes and everything than first person. So I don't know. I feel like first person flying also may have been a little barf inducing.
Mad respect for the pilots in the world.
Yeah, mad respect, because that's something I cannot do. And it's actually interesting here because like later in development, they were actually thinking of adding Amy to the game. So they started changing Sonic's model to look kind of closer to Amy, so it'd be easier to edit Sonic into Amy. And basically, they were going to swap out Tiara for Amy.
Oh, they were planning on doing so.
Yeah, like this was something they were thinking about doing. The development for this, it was kind of weird because it was essentially one group of people like working on the actual like stages. Another person, I believe it was Chris Coffin, who was working on like the engine for the boss stages. Because instead of doing like this weird like fisheye stuff for like the regular levels, for the boss stages, it was basically almost like a, not necessarily like an open world, but it was gonna be like an open stage where you could have like free movement and there would be the boss and you had to obviously fight the boss. And yeah, this was like its own unique engine.
Oddly enough, like cool little piece of info here is that during the development of Sonic X-treme post like Sonic Mars, there were multiple development teams all trying to work on different parts of the game at the same time to hopefully expedite the process to get the game released on time. And I want to say that Chris Sen was in charge of, or at least partially in charge of, the level design team. And I think it was Christina Coffin,
I think it's Christina Coffin. I also saw them referred to as Chris Coffin.
Yeah, they were working on the Project Condor, which was the boss engine that was being worked on for X-treme. And evidently, I don't know if you're going to get to this in your explanation, but farther down the line, somebody was like, the boss engine works better. Put it all onto that instead. instead.
Yeah.
Just scrap the other level stuff. One of the many cases where programming work just like completely took a back step, completely restarting over, or taking things that were supposedly split into two teams and like piling them onto one.
Yeah, because again, part of why this game flopped was just like internal organization and leadership was an absolute nightmare. Like, because at one point they even brought up the idea of trying to make Sonic X-treme for not only the Saturn, but I think it was either a PC port or maybe even like the 32X. And then like after like a few weeks of it, they're just like, nah, gut it, forget it. Like, don't work on that port at all. And that just wasted so much time, which time was not on their side because they were told to try and get this game out on Christmas of 96. Not only did they have Christmas to worry about, but they were also trying to get like a movie deal going on. A live action Sonic movie that was going to be a continuation of Sonic X-treme. So it's like you play the game for like most of the story and the movie was going to be like the last part of the story.
Personally, I don't like that. I don't like fundamentally the idea of, oh, I just got to the end of the game. Thanks for playing. Want to know what happens next? Go to your local movie theater.
Yeah, no, like
I hate that.
Like I've seen that sometimes in anime where it's like the anime is like the story, but then it's like the final part is like a movie. Like popular example of that was Gundam Wing, because you have Gundam Wing as the series, and then for like the final part of their story, they have an OVA called Gundam Endless Waltz. Or Gundam Wing Endless Waltz.
Yeah, but like in that case, at least like the television show
like,
and the movie
it's
basically
still
a longer
relatively
version
the
of the
same
other.
medium versus
Exactly.
Yeah, this case where one's literally a video game. So if this movie did come out, there's a good chance that like kids who went to go see it are gonna be confused because either they didn't play the game or higher chance that they didn't get far enough in the game to beat it.
That makes sense too. Like, don't stake a movie being the conclusion of a plot if you can't reasonably expect people to get through the plot.
Yeah.
Or maybe get through the plot without, barfing a couple times.
America was full of barf when Sonic X-treme was... No, wait a minute. No, it wasn't.
Because it never was. Essentially, during a period of development, to better allocate resource, I don't even know if better is even the correct term here, but there was essentially a level game engine, which was codenamed Sonic Boom.
Yeah.
No space there, by the way.
Yeah, and then there was the Project Condor that was specifically the boss engine.
Yeah, exactly. For one reason or another, I think in my head, I imagine the Sonic Boom engine being this fish islands, changing gravity stuff, very interesting physics and Sonic abilities, versus the boss engine, which from what I can see from screenshots, just kind of reminds me of like modern Sonic gameplay.
Yeah, Japan representatives just saw the boss stuff and they're like, we like this better than the weird fisheye camera stuff. So they're like, hey, make the entire game like this. And now it's like, oh, because this was in March of 96 when they came in and had this discussion. The game is supposed to come out in December. If they can't like port that over, everything they've been working on the past couple of months is once again scrapped.
Yeah. It essentially fell on the shoulders of three individuals. You got Chris Sen, Offer Alan, and Chris Coffin. And they were all now reallocated to specifically redoing the entire thing, but specifically in the Project Condor engine, aka the boss engine.
Yeah.
And at one point in time, somebody apparently brought up the idea to just take the Knights engine that was used for Nights into Dreams.
Yeah.
And I'm unclear whether or not they wanted to port everything over to the engine or somehow incorporate it. I'm less familiar on that.
I want to say it was Sega of Japan that did like all of the Nights into Dream stuff. And I think they just want to have the engine because that way they had like a 3D landscape they could kind of like build off of and maybe try to incorporate the Project Condor onto it. It's kind of sad because like at the beginning, they were essentially asking the president of Sega of America for it at the time, who was Bernie Stolar. And then he's just like, yeah, consider it done. But then like a few weeks later, Yuji Naka was just like, hey, stop using the Knights engine or I am going to quit.
That's quite the ultimatum. After the back and forth of, can we use the Knights engine? Yes, you can. Actually, no, you can't. Eventually, there was enough of a demo for the boss engine to be debuted at E3 in May of 1996. But they only had
E3
9 months
RIP.
they only had 9 months to get everything released before Christmas.
Yeah.
So that everything could be released all at the same time. Essentially, X-treme was going to go up the bat against Super Mario 64 coming out at the same time, Crash Bandicoot, as well as Knights.
That's a lot of tough competition there. And the fact that they had their E3 demo in May. So that's like, what, 2 months later from March. So they had 7 months and no engine to use now because Yuji Naka said no to the Knights engine. The odds of them actually getting this done were already pretty low, but it gets worse because of our key players in this setup. It was Chris Coffin who came down with pneumonia. And then Sen was hospitalized due to illness because of his absurd work hours. And basically,
That'll do it.
of those 3 key players you mentioned, with 2 of them out of the ring for months, at least, that basically was the killing blow for Sonic X-treme.
Like at that point, they were working on a skeleton crew with skeletal code. It's not going to run.
Yeah. Around August of 97, that was when they officially canceled Sonic X-treme because they did actually get an additional 6 months to work on it from Christmas because they knew that wasn't going to happen. They still wanted to get the game released because, again, they still had those talks about trying to get that movie. But yeah, with the loss of those 2, that was the killing blow. So to try and get some kind of Sonic game onto the Saturn, they did a very bad port of Sonic 3D Blast.
That's what they had.
Yeah, it was what they had, and unfortunately, like that and the fact that they didn't have a mainstream Sonic game led to the financial flop that was the Sega Saturn. That is not the end of X-treme. Despite it was canceled, it continues. Chris Sen, I believe it was in 06, started Project S. He wanted to essentially complete Sonic X-treme, and then it was going to be unofficial, and then it kind of evolved later into an original fan game heavily inspired by Sonic X-treme. But then in January of 2010, it was canned. 3 year and 3 months was the life cycle of Project S. Yeah, and then it died. And then it was kind of funny because on GameSpot, they referred to a possible release of a Project S for the PlayStation Portable, but that actually ended up being Sonic Rivals.
Oh, come on. R.I.P., dude.
Yeah, I feel like that's almost like a slap in the face there.
I don't exactly know when this came out, but there were so many details regarding Sonic X-treme because Chris specifically opened up the details of Sonic X-treme also in 06, I guess, along with that project that he was working on sentient.com/project/extreme. And it's archived on the Wayback Machine right now, but it's an entire website that has details for the concepts of Sonic X-treme, the levels, the test levels, all those storylines that you just went through, boss concepts, heroes,
the Sonic
tales,
X-treme compendium. Yes,
exactly. And like, I know even before this episode, like I took some time to go through the page, and it looks like the Sonic Wiki has most of this information in an admittedly more easily accessible form, but it is kind of cool to catch like a little snapshot of how things were at the time.
Yeah, and like there is so much concept for art for like enemies, bosses, and what have you. It is crazy like how much information about this game we have access to that has been provided to the community.
The way that I think of it too is like, if you think of all the games out there that were developed for months, dare I say even years at a time, how much thought, effort, and changes were put into it. Most of that stuff never gets released to the public. And it seems to me like there was so much attention to this game in particular, one, because of how much they tried to market it before its release, which inevitably didn't happen, but also because of the work of people who just kind of brought it up after the fact. They were like collectors who happen to have like, in this case, there was a gameplay video. Somebody had a software development kit in 2006 for the Sega Saturn. Only within the last, like, I guess that was about 20 years ago, just about now, you know, to put the timing in perspective there, but it popped up and people were like, all right, well, it's an important part of Sonic the Hedgehog's history, so let's do what we can to explore it, preserve it a little bit, and in some cases, try to revitalize it. I did some research in between episodes episodes to try to see if there was a version of Sonic X-treme to be played. And there are some details on the wiki page here about like certain versions of the engine, like V40 or V37. And I did find a working copy that looks like you can play just a single test level. Although screenshots here seem to imply that there are other levels you can explore, but I honestly, I haven't cracked the code on that yet. And I don't know if I will. Maybe that's something we can play, try it ourselves.
That would be really fun.
I don't know exactly how much there is to explore, but I do have a couple of files related to it. And one is in regards to, it seems like the test level, V40. One is called the Christmas version. I don't know whether this is an official thing or some fan that made it, but I haven't booted it up yet.
Yeah, because the only thing I could really think of with that is not only did they want to do the movie, they actually were planning on doing a episode relating to it in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. They were going to do an episode called A X-tremely Sonic Christmas. However, because the game got canned, they changed the episode name to Sonic Christmas Blast, trying to promote
Sonic 3D Blast.
Exactly.
Yeah, check that out. It's all connected.
Promotional stuff, they did try to salvage what they could, even though I think some of the promotional stuff did still end up getting released. A novel, an ice cream bar, a radio, and cassette player were made to promote the game, but they were discontinued due to its cancellation. But the fact that they were discontinued means that there are probably some out there in circulation.
These things are wild looking. What the heck? They're like neon colored and stuff.
Yeah. Dude, look at that ice cream bar, though.
The Sonic X-treme bubblegum flavor.
Yum.
Is this bubblegum flavor Sonic X-treme ice cream a precursor to gumball-eyed Sonic the Hedgehog?
Or the blue bubblegum Jones soda?
Yeah, dude, wait, is it a precursor? Is this the origin of Sonic's association with the flavor of bubblegum?
Part of me thought it was flavored with bubblegum because it was like something hip and cool with the kids, and he's way past cool.
I love the fact that there is an extremely delicious origin to the bubblegum Sonic flavor.
Also, we can't include it here, obviously, but I recommend finding the E3 1996 trailer for Sonic X-treme. This thing is absolutely wild. Like, I cannot believe they got away with this.
Do you want to put this in the description of the video?
I will.
It's hilarious, dude. Like, it's slander. They literally take no good talking about how I guess Sonic is like
he's fast, he's collecting things, he's better, and he wants a hit on Sonic. I can't believe they got away with this. I know this was for E3, but still, they're standards, man.
I can only imagine what like the heat must have been like between Nintendo and Sega for if there was a Nintendo representative in the audience watching this and being like, they just depicted our main mascot character as a mafia boss. Don't get me wrong, Mafia, Mario, pretty similar, but like,
yeah,
I don't know, man.
Oh man, it must have been a huge like reverse slap in the face for Sega when this game completely canned, and Mario 64, it's like one of the most famous games out there.
I still to this day sometimes enjoy my spare time watching Super Mario 64 speedruns. Granted, I would love to watch a Sonic X-treme speedrun if a speedrunnable version exists, but I imagine I'm gonna get vertigo.
Okay, I'll do it right now. Done. 0.0 seconds. Because it never happens.
Easy, because the game, it never happens.
Yeah. I would love to know, like, a fan's perspective back in this era, like, being so hyped for this Sonic game, like, with all, like, the articles you could find, and even, like, the promotional stuff that was still released. Yeah. And then ultimately, it's like, oh, yeah, it was canceled. But, plus side of it getting canceled, that kind of was what led to us getting Sonic Adventure. And that game's great.
In a way, yeah. A piece of me even thought when you were giving the rundown of each individual character got its own sort of camera angle, so to speak. It reminded me of the fact that in Sonic Adventure, each character has their own sort of gameplay. They have their own story progression.
Yeah, no, you are totally right.
Now, I don't think that there is a causal connection between the two because admittedly it seemed to be two different teams on two different sides of the world. But at the very least, it seemed at the very beginning of this whole Sonic X-treme process, this was following the release of Spinball and Sonic 2 and all those earlier games, that there was a team that came over to Sega of America to work on some of the projects over here, and then they went back before they were supposed to start developing what was then going to be for the Mega Drive, then the 32X, then the Saturn, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it was one of the problems that plagued STI, because I think they were the ones behind Sonic 2. All of, like, the big players left. So it's like, oh, great, now we have to make a follow-up to this really well-liked game with no one left who was a big contender in working on that.
An extremely wildly canceled game. This is a really cool deep dive, at the very least, because I learned more about stuff that was never released for Sonic versus things that were like, don't get me wrong, like scrapped content is cool, glitches are cool, but things that were this close to being at all, that's a special kind of intrigue.
Yeah, I remember, I think I proposed doing Sonic X-treme, and it was kind of like I don't know. I started like digging into it, and I just fell down the rabbit hole, and I'm like, okay, no, this is crazy fascinating. I'm like, yo, Cameron, like, we should do an episode on this. Like, this is crazy deep.
And the thing that sold it for me was I watched like a single video of the gameplay, and I was like, Sonic is like moving through 3D space in a way I've never seen before. Also, what is up with that camera angle?
Yeah.
That got me thinking, like, from the hardware perspective, how like how it was developed. And luckily for me, like, there was a bunch of information on the hardware involved in this, and specific like testimonials from the developers and the programmers.
Yeah.
And it goes so much deeper too. There is so much level of detail here that it is hard to talk about all of it. But there's interviews out there that you can read through. There's the compendium that's out there. There are so many YouTube videos that give their own spin on the summary, this podcast episode included.
This was so cool to delve into.
Gosh, the thing that annoys me so much about these is like anytime we talk about a cool game, I'm like, gosh, I'm gonna go and play that. And in this case, aside from the rough stuff that I was able to find, you really can't play it.
Yeah, because it was never released, and even Project S canned. It's almost like cursed in a way. This game will never come to be. I feel like there's a weird like allure to that hidden treasure you know exists, but you'll never be able to find it. You'll never be able to hold it in your hand.
Don't remind me. Maybe one day we'll get a Sonic game that allows us to experience a more than normal field of view. Lycos, where do we find ourselves? At the end of cancellation, I suppose.
At the end of the 90s, yeah, we got Sonic Adventure. I'm happy.
I'm happy with it. Yeah, you want to go play some Sonic Adventure?
I would love to
Maybe
play
get some screen caps for 2 episodes ago.
Better idea. Instead of us going off and playing Sonic Adventure and reliving an experience we've already had, why not we get together and we play some of those games that you found? The compilations are like people trying to build these Sonic games.
Yeah, there were at least a couple of them, and I tested at least one of them, and as of right now, my computer has no viruses. I think we're good. No Doom virus for me. Not yet.
Let's get together and let's see what we can play. Let's see what we can actually interact with in terms of Sonic X-treme, Sonic 16, Sonic Mars, all of that. Let's do it.
Keep your expectations low, dear audience. The game was canceled. If anything runs, that's better than I expected to be.
Yep.